All right, how's it going, everybody? Let's get Fernando up here and see what's going on in his world. Let me see what we got here. Let's see if my cell phone behaves. Okay, let's see how this goes. I think we're okay.
All right.
Yeah, I can hear
okay?
you. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. What's going on,
Perfect.
Fernando? How you doing?
I am doing well, surviving and transmuting this February. I have some beautiful things to share today. I can't believe it's 2020. It's still very surreal to me.
Yeah, we just went through 2222 and 2222, and there's a lot of stuff happening. Obviously, yeah, a lot of transmutation, further transmutation with the deep, darkest parts of us, I think. I saw a part of a show that you did with Carrie Cassidy over at Project Camelot a few days ago. A few days ago, and of course, we had one show before. I wasn't aware and I guess we didn't get into it because a lot of times we just start having a conversation on this show. But it was really interesting. I'd love to start there.
We're going to expand on that. I also did one with Laura Eisenhower. Both have just blown up because of the shift in direction from going into the whistleblowing aspect, the secret space program, the dark side investigations that we've done that people call conspiracies. What is being presented now is solutions on the table.
Yeah.
Because the first question we're asking, Todd, of all of our community is, all right, so we've gone deep into this dark night of the soul awakening, right? We've already played with the red pill. And what we're presenting is a couple of new evolved options for awakening. Consider it, one is the purple pill. This is the awakening process with a tribe and a community of support, a more gentle way, right?
Yeah.
And then the second one is the green pill, the awakening with nature, with being able to embrace our planet and follow universal law so that you're surrounded by the energetics of nature. That's part of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Alignment. Yeah, no more struggle. This isn't about struggle. It's about alignment. One of the things that I didn't get to listen to the whole thing. I didn't. I had stuff to do, but the part that I was able to listen to, excuse me, had to do with how this all started for you. And I believe you were working for a defense contractor or something in the space. I don't know what it was, but
yes, having an entire career in matrix companies, where I used to work for Microsoft in headquarters in Kirkland, Washington, and also work for Sony, American headquarters in the Silicon Valley. And that's where I really saw the dark intention of the technology we were consuming. Our television screens, our computers were designed and built by people who did not have consciousness in their intentions. Imagine if the engineers, the programmers, the scientists began from the early onset with the mission of creating technology to heal the world, to regenerate us as human beings. That's where my awakening started, when I saw that the most supposedly intelligent people we were recruiting from universities, young people and 19, 20-year-olds, put them in charge of multi-million-dollar technology and really expand them as weapons builders. We all became weapons builders. And that's where that healing, that spark went off in me, that I did not want to participate.
Wow. So you say weapons builders? You mean literally, like even at companies like Sony and
Well, to be
Microsoft?
candid, Uncle Bill Gates did not get to be a billionaire selling Windows and uh, Office. Microsoft has a division for contracting with weapons builders. But what I'm
Mm,
really pointing at is, how do we distinguish the control systems so that they work in our favor? Because right now, behind the scenes, we already know software runs our lives, runs our decisions. We are enslaved by what software programmers put into the code, by what media producers put into video and television and content. Content builders are enslaving our senses.
yeah.
Because when have you met a film producer in Hollywood? When have you met a software engineer in the Silicon Valley that is out to heal the planet, to build technology to connect us to spirit, right? That's the language the super collider people should be invoking,
Yeah,
not the
exactly.
idea of making more money and all that. So anyway, that's old language. Let's just stop right here with that and step right into the portal that we are all opening. So one thing that is being suggested here, Todd, is how about we take everything that we've learned through our ass kicking awakening process, right? All the books and CDs and gurus and
And ass
channelings.
kicked, and ass kicked
Yeah,
awakening.
that one. How about if we take all that and from now on only put solutions on the table?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know about the secret space program. Great. What are you going to do about it, about your life? And I'm going to go back to the basic five. How is that creating clean, structured water for you to consume? How is that healing your body? How is that knowledge producing energy in your life, coherent electricity in your life, like a free energy device? How is that creating a new housing situation for you? And how is that regenerating your own body from the cells up? If I'm consuming content from now on, videos, material, disclosure, whistleblowers, that material should translate directly into a solution that I can touch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a distraction, is what I'm saying. It's no
Yes.
longer important for me. It's not interesting. As a matter of fact, I'm bored with
I get that.
disclosure now.
Yeah, and I've mentioned that over the last probably year and a half, off and on, on this show. When does disclosure become a distraction? And I think what you're saying is, look, we've gotten enough information to know what's going on. Now, what are we going to do about it? That's kind of what you're saying, which
Right.
I agree with that.
What I'm going to share today with the audience is a project called the Vossahedron Project. It's a dome that I've talked to you about before,
Yeah.
that I started working on in 2012 after the December 22nd, when we realized the Matrix was still in full bloom. That's when I decided that from now on, my awakening was going to be a real project that was bricks and mortar technology.
Yeah.
So I already knew that from studying astrophysics and cosmology, that there are instruments like telescopes and particle accelerators. Where are the instruments for conscious awakening and regeneration, right? Can we go beyond wearing crystals to being crystals and
Yeah.
surrounding ourselves in a structure that is our own telescope and point that toward inside the inner verse? So that's where the journey took a different turn. Now, as a bioarchitect, I'm designing and building and prototyping real physical technology to amplify consciousness, to engage mental telepathic abilities, to communicate with our DNA so that with these instruments, we can use them as stepping stones because we still are so tied to hardware that
Yeah.
I said, okay, let's use that, right?
Yeah. It's almost like we have to work with it in the transition, because at the other end of it, I mean, theoretically, nothing would be necessary. We would be in a certain frequency or vibrational level where we've got these
Mm-hmm.
expanded skills and abilities and so on. I want to ask you a question. You said
Sure.
in this structure that you have like a telescope looking back, or drilling down into you, and that sounds somewhat metaphorical, I think is what you're saying. Or is it literal? And the second part of it
It
is
is, yeah.
literal. Yeah. Okay. So and the second part is there software programming involved, and do you think that at some level that the human hybrid, the human hybrid soul incarnated, can fuse or integrate with software?
I first want to make a clear distinction for our audience, and this is where the true discernment of reading the matrix. Can we tell the difference between AI, artificial intelligence, and NI, natural intelligence? Do we know what the difference is? And the answer is most people don't. They cannot discern between transhumanist cybernetic implants and something that came from the earth, nature, any longer. First is because our primary sources, where do we get our information from? The cell phone. We get our information from regurgitated stuff. So everything I'm going to be speaking about is firsthand primary interaction with nature,
Right.
understanding natural forces. The second part I want to show about that is once you can clearly distinguish between binary, digital, and natural, analog, infinite bandwidth, infinite quantum processing, like a rainbow, like an emotion, like a magnetic field, those are natural analog
Hmm.
experiences that cannot be contained in the digital world. We don't have computers that can contain a rainbow,
Right.
that can contain love. So that's the first step into how do we create tools for ourselves that are real. And what I'm getting to is manifestation from thought, materializing matter from something you were thinking about. That's one of our greatest genetic gifts, right?
Yeah.
That whole process has been sabotaged for sure.
You
So
know, we just had
begin with
we just
children
had a
doing that.
yeah. There's a lag. That's why it sounds like I'm interrupting you. I'm not. We just had a show, and there's no coincidences. We just had a show with Michael James Garber, who does QHHT sessions. And he's compiling this information, kind of like Dolores Cannon did. And one of the things that he said, because I said, because he listed 4 or 5 things that were in front of us, like say in the future, that his clients had been talking about. And one of them was, I asked him to expand on it, was the skills and abilities, our true nature, our natural skills and abilities. And he said that some of what they were talking about was that we would be creating in the moment from our thoughts.
Yes. So I'm posting a link right now, right here in the chat comments,
Hmm.
what I call the Vossahedron Invitational. And I'm speaking a little bit slower because our internet's having issues today. And I know I'm not the only one.
Right.
So part of what I'm doing is showing the audience that one can take their greatest vision from their first eye and create a project out of it that is real and physical, so that the project itself here on earth, your purpose, becomes your mission and your process to talk to nature, to engage your DNA, to invite your star family, all of it, and orchestrate it as something physical and real.
Mm.
Because it doesn't matter how many videos you watch anymore. It doesn't matter how much material you read until you put it into action. It's when you can go to the next level. And the
Yeah.
Vossahedron project is that kind of example.
Yeah. I like that. I like that description, because I felt that way throughout the years with Soulogy at different times. Like in other words, I can see the broadcast, the transmission, let's just say, not only in the physical, but in the what we might call the non-physical, or the star family frequency or whatever you want, whatever, however you want to term it.
Right.
Uh, I can see what you're saying, but also at the same time that it takes on the bricks and mortar, because without the bricks and mortar, it doesn't have near the effect.
Right. The second part of this is when when one visualize something that seems impossible, like an architect wanting to build a house to regenerate your body and make it a transporter mechanism to access the future, to talk to yourself a million years from now, like a video conferencing system,
Mm.
to be able to produce its own coherence, free energy. When you start asking the universe to do that, all the answers start coming to you. The new physics comes to you. So I've described a new physical system I call the Healing Codex. And it's available online now as an image, which is a 12th dimensional diagram of all the energies and systems and modalities I'm using for my project. Because the physics from school are not helping me anymore. The science I learned at university is not helping me at all. As a matter of fact, it has become the enemy within, the limiting factor in envisioning, right? So, two things that I've identified as components of planetary liberation are what we call free energy, but I'm going to reposition it. I'm going to call it energy in freedom, free
Mm.
flowing electricity and light and magnetism and crystal energy and sacred geometry and thought and sound, all of them. The second one, the second pillar of what I'm doing is called liquid light. This is regenerating the fire of the body, regenerating yourself to 1,000-year lifespan and
Mm.
beyond. Where are we going to have that conversation, right? If we're not doing it at home with ourselves first. And I'm letting the audience know you don't need a multi-million-dollar facility. You don't need instruments. One already is born with that. It's our birthright to
Yep.
explore longevity. It's our birthright to have energy and freedom. This is what Eden, the garden, is about. Think
Yep.
of the energetic Eden, which all the energetic fields around all of the loving forces of nature, and think of the physical rainforest Eden, the natural place where you're eating food that is tuned to your DNA. Todd, how do you feel recently about trying to buy food at a market nowadays or drink water from water sources that we have? None of it is working for me right now.
Well, I think the bodies, and a lot of people have talked about it on the show, the body is talking to us more, and not saying that everyone's not necessarily getting the same message, but one of the things that seems to be coming out is that whatever the body's telling you, and people are listening, some kind of alignment or further alignment. In other words, the body's going to tell you what it needs or what's not going to work for it. Which could be like, say, for instance, some bottled water that's still got fluoride in it or whatever the case is. I was going to ask you too. This is kind of quite fascinating. So this structure. Okay, so let me just preface it. There are a
And
lot
I
of
have some
people.
imagery to share too when we're ready.
Absolutely. Uh, so a lot of people like myself and many people that are listening do these things. They speak to their future self. They speak to their past self. Their 3-year-old. They travel through dimension and these different things. It sounds to me like this structure that you're talking about is a bricks and mortar complementary piece, fusing the physical and the non-physical to assist us in doing this. I almost see like a virtual reality where you walk in the door and say lights on, uh, you know, press cook, or in other words, almost like the way I don't use it, but the way people talk to their phone and instruct their phone.
Let's take that a little bit further, because we feel that intelligent homes, the smart home, the one that's everything is wired together and you can open up your front door by just putting a command, clapping your hands and the lights come on. Let's say that your house is designed in a shape, and I'm going to bring it up here. Let's see if the internet behaves. Let me know when you can see an image, a crop circle.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. So part of my research is studying crop circle geometry and looking at the flower of life kind of hints
Yeah.
here. Here is the design that I came up with. It's called the Healing Codex. It's a 12-pointed star with 12 circles around it. And here's a poster. Here's a bottle of water being charged on top of my Healing Codex design, imprinting it. So this is what it looks like. It might be small on most people's screens. So I put a link in the comments to the healingcodex.com. And as I move through this geometry, I also have created grids with crystals and words.
Mm.
Think of it as looking at a molecule and all the orbits.
Oh, I see now. It's got a 3. And there's your structure. Is that
Here's
that's
the
like
interior of the Vossahedron. It's like extruding that shape. Here's an image of a 2-story Vossahedron dome, this star pattern that has these wedges that reflect HARP. They reflect MK Ultra frequencies. This shape is a shield.
Hmm.
And then the inside, your furniture has all the geometry in it. The walls, here's a view of the window, a hexagon looking in. This shape is designed. Here's the structure, just the frame of it. You can sit inside the frame. It creates cymatic patterns of energy inside.
Wow.
Here's the skylight looking down. What it does is it's really the design of a light ship. This image is the view of what I saw in my first eye as a molecule that flies across space heading toward the Pleiades and beyond. What do these light ships look like if you did a cross section of them? And this is the Vossahedron light ship. And you can see the flower of life as watermarked, barely embedded there.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is taking harmonic resonance patterns. Here are some imagery of those. And being able to stand inside that pattern, inside your house. So the prototype we're building this year, this very summer, will be an 18-foot diameter structure that plays with these harmonics.
Yeah.
And the mathematics of sacred geometry inside a shape. So I could even just make a shell of it, like a frame, and be inside of it like an antenna that I'm communicating with higher aspects in my DNA.
Yeah.
And I'm also designing clothing with this geometry of the
That's
Healing
far out.
Codex.
That's a far.
It's an extension of the flower of life. It's like taking it as an inspiration, but going beyond it. So here's some of the different arches and wedges. So you can see these are fractal, all these triangles. Here's a 3D, very early rendering I did. This is about 8 years old already from the flower of life. Here's the view of the dome looking straight down on it. So you can see that it has 12 points, 6 big and 6 small. I wanted to come up with a shape that would be the shape of the love frequency, multiples of 432 hertz, 720, and so forth. So this gives you a little bit of the geometric exercises as an artist, turning it into a shape that I've already 3D printed. And that plastic shaped in that way creates cymatic patterns in water. Here's an example of running a ultraviolet laser through it and water at the bottom.
Explain what a cymatic pattern is, a cymatic wave.
This is my laboratory. When you have, let me back up a little bit so you can see one. Here's one. This pattern created in water, like a bowl, a little shallow bowl of water with a speaker under it running sound through it. And the vibration, like when you do Om or play tones, you can take pictures and it creates animated patterns in water that show you that sacred geometry is floating in front of us all the time. It is, if you take a piano and create a chord, a sound that harmonizes, that harmonic would create a visual image of your Merkaba field. You know, these are the sounds turned to form. So cymatics has been around since the 60s. at least as a field of study. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
S-
One of the things that was important for me is to learn the language of materialization. How do we materialize, bring into being something from thought? How do we heal our body so that it starts going into a regeneration mode? What is the language that nature uses to go from energy to physical and physical back to energy? And could I use that as a device to learn how to have coherent thoughts in my brain so that my body coherently resonates, it vibrates at different levels, that disease and bacteria and parasites leave. They can't be in a system of coherence, right? That's why these shapes look very symmetrical, you know, 2, 3, 4, 6-fold, 12-fold symmetry. The rules of the universe that I've experienced are coherent.
mm,
Truth is nice and clean. It doesn't have distortions to it, right? So I'm blending a lot of different angles here. So to see that you can go from esoteric language to light language to science and engineering seamlessly. It's having one foot in the physical world and having one foot in the quantum world. That's what it's going to take to be a new free energy human.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
without going
then,
crazy.
and so like when you, so you're taking everything into account. I mean, I can see you putting a structure up, where it's located geographically, you know, grid lines, ley lines, or whatever,
Right.
uh, and really trying to maximize the potential of the overall vibration, which is made up of all these different frequencies to include, you might even have sound, light, you know, so almost like inaudible sound, or however you want to put it. I mean, there could be tones, whatever. I can see that.
And imagine getting a house, a structure. And I don't know if you should live in this yet. I'm going to be experimenting in it, but we still have to see what the body is going to react to being inside a dome that gives you these resonance patterns. And what if you got a box, a kit with your new structure that came with crystals and magnets and mirrors and lasers and sound producing objects and containers for water, and you can mix and match in the walls, plug in
Mm,
crystals, plug in a laser, bounce it off of the mirror, and create structures, and suddenly you have an instrument. What if your house was a machine of
mm,
playing with consciousness and your body was the main sensor? Your body was the modulator of all of it. So let's
mm.
say I want to practice astral travel or remote viewing. Where is the best place to do that right now? Possibly nature, but not in a city. Our houses are not designed to amplify consciousness. They're designed to shrink it down and pretty much
Mm.
dismantle it, right? What about a house that's fully grounded to the earth so you can be in resonance with the Schumann patterns every moment? What if your house was a acupressure point on earth that pulsed love and compassion to your neighbors, to the surrounding city, so that you became a beacon. And every time you sent out healing waves, your house would help you amplify them.
Yeah, it's
Because right
amplified.
now, the only service that we give to signals is our cell phone and our cable TV antennas. That to us is the most interesting thing. It's so interesting we're willing to pay money and work our lives for it, but we don't have amplifiers of our own signals. The throat chakra should be connected to the earth so your message gets out. This is a way of empowering yourself and in invoking everything that you know. You know, Todd, I asked my star family for this. I asked Inner Earth. I asked Gaia. I invited Spirit to teach me how to do this. I didn't want to just have a lot of useless information any longer.
Right on, right on. And it sounds like what you're building, you know, energetically, is the same thing that we're doing. And you know, you mentioned the word protection a minute ago, but then you show these pictures of the somatics, which are pure and non-distorted. And
Right,
so what we're dealing with, out there, some of the things you mentioned are distorted transmissions coming at us. So as you build this thing, it's kind of emulating what we're all doing. You know, as we firm up our field and ground ourselves and expand, we become our own protection basically. And this is like an emulation of us, or an extension of us, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah. If we're going to liberate this planet and bring it into a level of peace and coherence, one must do that with the cells in your own body, to have that peaceful conversation with this body planet. And until you can get that in harmony, it's going to be difficult for us to evoke that change outside of ourselves. So, this is just taking the same language we already know and putting it into action, so that when I stand in a room and people talk to me, they're talking to a coherent version of my mind, no longer that scattered, you
Yeah.
know, damaged, abused mind that was from my childhood and from the school system and all that. No longer do I subscribe to the labels that were placed on me by religion, my parents, by the dysfunctionality of my childhood, whatever. All of that does not play into the vocabulary that's coming through me, so that I am speaking from the future live as I'm
Yeah.
building these tools. And I no longer want to build an intentional community. I want to build a laboratory where I can start
Right.
studying this and be around people who are interested in this along with me. So, this is also an invitation to our audience. I am in New Mexico, and those who are interested in playing with the Vocahedron structure, helping us prototype a fully working model this year, and using it as an instrument for your vision, your projects, this is the time to connect with me. Look at the links that were placed here and seeing if this language speaks to you. This is the open invitation, because it's real. I made myself and my work accessible so that others can be inspired and say, now I can take my crazy idea. Right, Todd? How many of us are sitting on genius right now and not doing
Every
much
one of
with it?
us. Every one
How
of
many
us.
of us are hoping that we just funding is going to do it? Funding is going to help this project, but I'm
Mm.
not waiting for it. I've already done so much with Earth, with hiking in nature, learning how to work with magnetic fields. And one of the shifts that I wanted to share with the audience is that I interact with the energies of this planet as they were my ascended masters, ascended versions of me.
Yes.
Magnetism is me, it's my soul energy, and I'm in love with it, and I speak to it. Electricity is a living being that wants to regenerate me.
Yeah.
Light coming from the sun is having a conversation with me. It is the edge of my higher self. The sacred geometry shapes that I love finding, that's another version of my body. And so when I say I'm speaking to myself in the future, I'm speaking to myself in all these different bodies. It's
Yes.
it's not like in school where you learn physics and they're separate than you. We're going to learn the table of elements. Here's hydrogen. It's something out there. Nowhere that in school did they say this is you. We're going to learn about. And who should tell you more about you? Yourself. I could tell you more about electric fields and magnetism and light and all those things with this new language that I have. Enough to know that there's so much variety in this universe that everyone can have their own physics.
Yeah.
Everyone can
Yeah.
have their own understanding of reality and take away what you think you knew about how these forces are going to work,
Let me ask you a question. This is always steep my curiosity. People talk about AI. I mean, it's out there. And then looking at your pictures and images of this somatics, and then my own, experience of as my field's expanded, I can see the difference it's had. I don't have certain things happen that used to happen. I mean, like I said earlier, it's like we're building our own protection. Now, I've also believe, and I'm not, this is just my opinion. I'm not throwing anything on you. I'm just curious. I'm just trying to learn something.
Sure.
Everything's made of the same God substance. Uh, God is substance. That means I can talk to anything. It's all me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, I do understand if somebody puts together a super collider or anything else with, let's just say, ill intentions, that there is power in that. No different than there's power in something that's positively infused, even though there's probably more power in it. But so how does that work? I mean, are we let me get this right. Are we getting to a point now, or are we at a point, or soon or later, where the collective awareness is becoming so expansive and profound that we can actually work with these things from the mind, neutralize them, transform them, transmute, whatever you want to call it. Because it sounds like what you're doing is you are building the bricks and mortar, emulating what we're doing, which is fantastic. 'Cause, I mean, that just represents more alignment. But I mean, do you see, is there a potential that we could actually do this in a way, in the Eden-esque way, in the original, maybe call it the original divine blueprint, where we can actually have this experience without distortion and everything's kind of takes care of itself? I mean, do you think we're close to that, or do you think that projects like this are going to get us to that point?
Well, if one connects with the idea that our current science is not that old, a couple hundred years, 300 years tops, our current understanding of reality, we don't even know who built the pyramids. We don't really know these ancient masters that created technology using sound levitation and so forth. So the first thing is to understand whatever you learned at school is not helping you right this moment. It's not building conscious wealth in your life. And I look at the results. Are you experiencing cancer? Are you experiencing poverty? Whatever you're experiencing in disorientation in this world, disconnection with earth, all of those things. Whatever it is that one is learning in the matrix should help bring those things happen. And AI is not designed for that. Artificial intelligence, as a previous software programmer, is designed for control. It's designed for slavery of the mind, a distraction, create entertainment, an IMAX theater that distracts us so much that we cannot hear our own inner voice. That's what AI is about.
Yeah, yeah, no,
And it is soulless,
yeah.
compassionless. So
Well,
you can
I mean,
it
that's what
cannot
I'm
have
getting.
a direct. Go ahead.
No, that's what I'm getting at. You
So the
know,
answer is no, you can't get to it. I don't
well,
believe you can
well, let me
reach
say
it.
this. Okay, look, here's the way I look at it: fluoride, GMOs, AI with ill intentions, anything constructed of ill intentions, be it the design of a house or anything. There's something to be said for what we're going through when we hit a level of awareness that something had power over us. We're supernatural gods and goddesses in the flesh.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't I be able to engage anything that comes my way and convert that,
When you say
and
my,
become,
that's the part we have to expand. What do you mean by I and my? Are are we invoking all that we are in our actions here on earth? When I am walking around, going to the shop, going to work, am I the galactic infinite being of light surrounded by an entourage of ancestors? Am I connected to the earth? No, the answer is no. We are a very singular, disconnected I that doesn't have those powers at, at will.
that's interesting. I agree with
When
you in the past. I don't agree with
Mhm.
you today. I
Oh,
believe that I like,
today we are bigger eyes.
well,
Yes.
I walk around, I know my team's with me. Am I always connected to the team? I think, and I can speak, as an individual goes, so goes a collective, that as time goes on, we're able to sustain our connection and thereby our stronger field for longer periods of time. I think things like this are great. And I'm not being, I'm not being argumentative or anything. I'm just actually have a question of why can't we, is there anything that exists, whether it was created with ill intention or not, that actually could be soulless, that could be spiritless, that could be not made from, how can something not be
I
made
like the
from
question.
the
It's a deep
source?
question.
You know what I mean? How could something
Right.
not be made from source, even if it's an indirect product of something that was made from source? You know?
Uh, uh, you know, instead of attempting to resolve an unresolvable question with this coconut, this one cannot contain infinity, cannot contain those answers. The neural networks in our current brain cannot hold ideas about infinity, about our soul, about our cosmic nature. The impetus for me in the short term, right now, it's a short term solution,
Yeah.
is to make the matrix irrelevant in my life.
Yeah.
To when people say, well, I want to know about the secret space program because I heard they have a jump room to Mars, they have healing beds. What I'm suggesting is whoever built those things are not good for you. Those technologies will kill you. You and I both have interacted with the people who've interacted with those technologies, and their bodies and minds are wrecked.
Hmm.
So At this moment, in the short term, to me, there is nothing inside the banking system that I'm interested in. There's nothing inside the pharmaceutical or the secret space program or the cabals or whatever advanced technology they think they have.
Yeah.
Where I keep hearing, oh, the Dragon family is going to come out and do a currency reset. None
I
of
don't
that is
believe
going
that.
to help any of this right
I
now.
don't believe
As a
any of
matter of
that.
fact, I'm just going to come out and say it. I have no physical proof that the secret space program exists.
Yeah.
I can only deal with the energies that I'm working with in my experiments, primary research. I have no direct proof of cabals right this moment, other than knowing that it's time for me to not rely on their technology and those
Of course.
solutions.
Yeah.
I wanted to make them irrelevant to me. I don't care anymore that they might
Yeah.
have explored space outside of Andromeda. What have they done for me today? Nothing.
Right.
That group of monkeys, to me, in the secret space program have not come out to heal the world. Have the people who run the financial systems, I don't want a financial reset. It doesn't really help me right now. I don't want more money. Conscious wealth is what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
I like the depth of your question. Yes, I do believe at some point we should be able to wield artificial intelligence and in benevolence. But at this moment, we are not working with the full constructs. We're
No,
working with
I agree with you. I mean, we're actually talking the same language. That's where I go with, and I'm open to anything. Don't get me wrong, but if I look at, and I'm not political at all. I'm talking about to me, a program is a program. A program is
right.
something external that comes to me and takes my power away. And one of the things that intrigues me as well, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, is the whole Trump and QAnon deal. I looked at disclosure and I said, well, what point does that become a distraction? Because we all needed it, the information, to get to a certain level of awareness to discover for a greater awareness of ourselves. But if I look at the Trump QAnon thing and I see in the light worker circles people putting up, pro Sanders or pro Trump, and in the QAnon thing, it's almost like look, somebody's been telling a narrative, or some bodies, for thousands and thousands of years, with information far ahead of the collective, the vast majority. So why would I trust anything? So I love your approach of taking on the self-reliance of the soul, the personal responsibility for the collective creation that we all experience and share, by putting bricks and mortar to it. Because to me, what you're doing is making, most of all, an energetic impression from the free will aligned with the divine will to create a
Mhm.
better, for lack of a better way to put it, a better world, a better universe, further alignment, greater expansion. And I think that's a powerful thing in and of itself. No
Yes.
matter what level of achievement is accomplished by the old 3D scale of measurement. You know what I mean?
If we do have looking glass technology that Trump administration has access to, so they can future predict outcomes, good for them. How is that bringing clean water to my life? How is
Mhm.
that healing my body? How is QAnon bringing food to my table that heals my
Yeah,
body? None of that
yeah,
is happening in my life. That does not discount that what's happening with that disclosure movement is progress. Of
yeah,
course it is.
yes.
At this moment, that progress is not affecting my life just yet.
I get
When
what you're saying.
Trump and that organization would make a public announcement and say, we have sustainability as a national emergency. As a matter of fact, sustainability and healing and regeneration is the number one priority of the nation of America. And we're looking for people around the country to help us put together this program.
Yeah,
We are going to designate zones in every state as free energy zones where the law is not going to intervene. Then I will say, I'll pay attention to Trump.
yeah.
So I
Well,
don't
and
make
even
judgments of
yeah,
what
and
Trump is
even
about.
yeah, and I'm not like throwing rocks at Trump. I mean, I look at
No.
everything. I try to look at everything from the zero
I'm
point.
using extreme discernment and zero tolerance. If the police
Yeah,
that follow me around have zero tolerance, I have zero tolerance toward the matrix.
yeah,
Extreme discernment for the
yeah.
matrix. And it has to come down to those things I keep repeating over and over. How is it helping your life to know
I
these
agree.
things
Well, I
about
agree with it.
QAnon and Trump?
I love the way you put that, and I've had this discussion with a few people. I don't have it too often.
The QAnon movement could fund free energy. If all the people following QAnon right now, all the fans of that would invest and collectively support inventors to release free energy to inventions and prototyping, we would change the landscape. If everyone who participated in the Occupy movement donated $1 toward inventions of free energy and healing, we already would have them.
Or
So
if there
something is
was,
broken in that.
or if there was a movement that had, let's just say, the traction that the QAnon movement has, if there was a movement that had accessibility to, let's just say, whatever that number is, 50 million people who were that
Yeah,
tuned in on a day-to-day basis, and instead of having these cryptic messages of connecting the dots, speaking plain freaking human language, English, whatever language it is, and saying everybody go outside, sit in your front yard and say I refuse to participate. And here again we have an energetic,
I'm
really,
not going to
I
take
mean,
it anymore. That
you
one.
know what? Well, I'm just saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pay my taxes. I'm not going to register my car. I'm not going to get my driver's license. I mean, and so going back to, what we're talking about, we'll get back to what you're talking about. When I see somebody stand up and say, hey, okay, I just walked outside this morning. Why are there still chemtrails? Is it because, as the disclosure community says and the QAnon community says, because it's got to go real slow? It's got to move real slow. People can't take bullshit. Chemtrails are
I
chemtrails, and I
agree with
still
you.
see them. I still see them checkerboard in the sky, and I've never heard Trump say anything about it. Now, I'm not knocking Trump. I'm just saying any leader. Putin's never said anything. Whoever, right? But it just seems to me, at the end of the day, it does get kind of complicated. Like you said, what's it doing for me? What's it doing for me? Giving me, clean water, organic food, advanced medicine, whatever the case is. And at the end of
Right.
the day, it sounds like the same old narrative to me, like somebody's, got a carrot on a stick in front of a donkey.
I'm going to take this a little bit further, Todd. Visualize that with longevity practice, whatever we're doing to talk to ourselves, to extend those telomeres, why would an architect such as myself design a house to last 1,000 years?
Mm.
Because this nutcake plans to be here in this body and in other bodies. This is the last lifetime I plan to incarnate without conscious wealth. I'd like to be born into a planet where I have a house, there's water and electricity and food waiting for me for my
Yeah.
incarnation.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of that dysfunctionality. Second, I plan to leave an archive of knowledge before this body leaves and transitions so that others can feed. As a trained architect and engineer that has gone through an awakening process, I say to people, prove it. What are you doing after you've gone through 10 years of awakening? Those of us who were first wavers and before me, we are building real physical tools that are seeds, like little
Yeah.
mustard seeds.
Yeah.
The Vocahedron is a seed for an entire methodology of eco cities of the future. We're going to be studying these structures for the next 1,000 years. As people are evolving and awakening, they're going to bring their instruments, just like we do the pyramids. They're going to come meditate around Vocahedron structures. And right now, I can sense that we're being remote viewed from the future. There are students of consciousness from the future coming back and watching this conversation as the pioneers of the age of conscious living. This is, I'm already writing the book by doing these projects. It's not
Right.
necessarily, I don't have to write the physical
I
paper
agree. I
book.
agree. Yeah.
I'm having a conversation with the future as my reality.
Yes.
Call it denial of the present, good. Because I'm suggesting to people, if grounding to a planet, I want to meditate and ground, but the planet right now is very contaminated energetically, it is abused and so forth. How about if we ground up to a higher reality and ground forward to a greater future and start bringing them in? So my grounding meditations are about the future. That's my language. I play the future like an instrument, like a piano or a cello, and I'm hearing the sound of my thoughts
Hmm.
already being manifest, and I can prove that to myself more than I can prove the secret space program.
Yeah.
That
Do
to
you
me is
think?
real.
Do you think that that Mother Earth is at the same stage as the collective, um, level of expansion, or do you think she's leading us on our way?
Let's first connect that she is not an external. She is us. It is us
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yes.
It's our
Yes. Of
planetary
course.
body. And
Yes.
she, Gaia, is already a quantum entangled superposition being with all futures and all possibilities. So, yes, the ascended earth is just as real to me as the present moment right now.
Right.
The other part is, I'm in my 50s, Todd. I don't want to mess around anymore. I've already read thousands of books, already been to gurus and classes and I'm ready to build,
I'm
do
with you,
something.
man. I'm almost 60. I
you
know.
know,
Uh,
if
yeah.
anything, I'll be like George Van Tassel and leave an integratron out in a Joshua tree that people can figure out what it does. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to leave this information that I have with me. I'm going to bring it out. So what has happened since I've come out with this Vocahedron project, I've been working on it since 2012. Now that I'm ready to build a full-scale prototype, there's a beautiful tribe that has blossomed of thousands of individuals that are already at this level. They have the language of all these technologies. They're already practicing. So
Yeah.
what we're doing is a systems integration approach. We are integrating a collective integration of all of our ideas, and it's a collaborative environment. We're helping each other create these inventions. We are designing, Todd, a civilization from the ground all the way up, from
Yeah.
every
It's like a,
molecule all the way
yeah.
up.
Yeah. I like that. I like that metaphor and reality. It's like there's a new level of networking engineering happening, and it's not even necessarily one person or a person. It's all these people doing their thing that's all starting to connect and going back to those images that you had with the flower of life patterns.
Right. And how about if we have our own mathematics, our own physics? And when I say our own, what I'm suggesting is that we each can come up with our own
Yeah.
as a fu to the system in a way, you know? That sounds really spiritual, doesn't
Hey,
it?
it's okay. I've been known to let a
you
few
know,
fly. I'm trying
in
to
all
behave, but
compassion, in all heart, in all love, fuck what I learned in school. It's not helping me right now. Those 12 years of
yeah,
university system that I've been through,
yeah.
screw that knowledge. It's not helping us right now
No,
because many of my colleagues that graduated from those universities, those Ivy League schools, here's some of my passion coming through, are feeding the weapons systems, are
of
working
course
for
they
the
are.
weapons companies. How about if we don't, not only do we not participate, we create something that makes them irrelevant.
Well,
How
I
is
mean,
this
I think,
real?
yeah, I think that's speaks for itself. You know,
I'm not
when you,
angry. I'm
no, 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 no,
excited.
no. Oh, I know.
I'm
I'm in
going
this.
into, I'm
I'm in the
somebody who
same
doesn't
boat.
take any medicine, no
I'm in the same.
aspirin, nothing, not
Yeah,
even
I'm in the
headache
same boat.
medicine, nothing, no NyQuil, no. I go into a market and I look at the personal products section with
Mm,
deodorants and all that
mm,
crap, and I go, wow, I don't need any of it. And
mm.
if it's a freeing thing, all the plastic, all of that, I live in a reality where it's not as important anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, we still require money to do certain things. Of course, we still have to buy
I
crap
know some people
from
that are
Ralph.
not. I
You
think I
know?
saw Lawrence Swindle on here. He's not. He's
Oh yeah.
actually.
But
Yeah.
now
He's. Yeah.
I voted with action. I relocated myself from San Diego. I live in a small town in New Mexico now and closer to the forest. I
Mm,
made the conscious choice to dedicate my attention and my time to what I'm doing more than
absolutely.
anything else.
Yeah.
There's no reality TV show more interesting than our lives, Todd. Look at the
That's right.
people we get to interact with, cosmic beings, the inventors of the future, the voices of Gaia. They're all in our purview.
Yeah.
One of the ways I know this is real, Todd, is I just look at our Facebook friends. There are more conscious people in my current circle of a constellation of a life than there has ever been. I wonder where were these people when we were children, right? I would have loved to have some of the friends I have now.
They were probably in the same boat we were. You know,
Yeah.
we
The
were
other
kept
thing is,
apart.
I can't tell you if I'm going to be here another day or another
True.
millennia on this planet. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I've already seeded this knowledge with how much emphasis I've put on it. People
Yeah.
can't hang out with me without getting some form of download
Well,
of these
plus, I mean,
projects.
plus you just by the power of your thought and the
Yes.
intentions of your creation. I mean, energetically,
Hmm.
you've impressed that upon the field out there.
Oh yeah, I'm holding here a 3D printed model, and I can't remember if I showed it on your show before. This
Mhm.
is the Vocahedron shape. This geometry was in this coconut, went through a series of processes, and I'm holding it in my hand. This is manifestation from thought.
Mhm.
This shape right here is the free energy device that heals my body, that I'm going to be building one this summer with a mold, and people will be able to experience it. It's like talking to Tesla, talking to Ed Leescallen from Coral Castle, or any of these inventors. Each one of us has this potential ready to go right now. And I'll tell you what has happened just in this year and last year. This is the first time in my life where I felt no opposition any longer. The last two videos I did, like the Carrie Cassidy one and the Laura Eisenhower, I don't see any more trolls there. I don't see all these people with their stupid negative comments anymore. All I see is hundreds of comments of, I want this. I'm ready for this. Thank you, Fernando, for doing this. This is huge. Carrie Cassidy has a lot of attacks. You know, I met her twice and spent time with her. And those of us who've worked with people from inside those matrix structures, they're vampiric. Those experiences of being around whistleblowers is not easy. You know,
Mhm.
it's very depressing too. So that's how I know there's an energetic shift. And I feel that there is a momentum, a threshold we've achieved, because I've met others who have the exact same vision I do, to build
Yeah.
domes that shield you from the matrix and heal your body, and are transporters, right?
Yeah.
This is real. It's no longer
This is
conversation.
I think timely too, because there's been more talk, like round 12, I guess. I don't know. I've been in these circles for a few years, of Atlantis, and particularly Atlantis technology, whether it be metaphoric or whether it not be. But almost
Oh
like,
yes.
some of the stuff that people have been saying the
Being
last few
here,
days, on some of the things that people have been saying the last few days on the show, this lag is bad, um, has been that we're reaching the technological level of where Atlantis was, and that we're going to be faced with the same things, basically the things you're talking about. Is it going to be stuff that's utilized for the better, for the greater good, or for personal agendas?
I feel that there's a fractalization taking place at the moment. There's a separation of those who want to go in one direction and those who want to go in another direction. So I'm not invoking sustainability and regeneration for everyone, because not
Yeah.
everybody wants it.
Yeah.
It would be nice to uh, follow the path of Lemuria and the path of Atlantis, from the Pacific Ocean to the coastlines of America and Canada, and the path that all those cities took. You know, Atlantis was a nomadic kind of civilization, and it
Yeah.
seems to have happened more than once. There were more than one flood, more than one destruction. And there's a huge collective Akashic remembrance of working with light and sound
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
crystals and
Yeah.
geometry, and having knowledge of Earth, the natural intelligence of Earth. So here in New Mexico, I live in Silver City, which is a small artistic community. And there's a lot of ex-Black Project people here from Sandia National Labs, Los Alamos. There are people here who worked on reverse engineering craft.
And what are they
Imagine that in a
doing?
little.
What are they doing now?
Most of them are in their 70s,
Hmm.
60s and 70s. So they're retired.
Just
They're
chilling out.
regenerating. They are traumatized from
Hmm.
society. They don't travel to the cities much, right?
Yeah.
And we are in a mining town here. There are holes by the mining companies that are the biggest open pit mines in the world. So I see those as wounds that are ready to be healed and
Yeah.
regenerated into rainforests. But back to
Fascinating.
Atlantis, the
Hmm.
ancient Hopi, the ancient Navajo have descendancy, a star knowledge connection in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico and the cliff dwellings here. I visited those sites, and to me, those are the telepathic centers that those civilizations have ascended. They left the planet. They communicated. Chaco Canyon has a history of 10,000 years. The Forest Service won't tell you that, right? Some of those petroglyphs. So For me, it is real to be a cosmic archaeologist. I've lived around Lemuria my entire life. I've lived in Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Hawaii, California, Canada, all the way up to Alaska. I've circled my home country of Lemuria. At the same
Wow.
time, I visited South Africa and been to the Anunnaki sites with Michael Tellinger. And at some point, the Anunnaki and the ancient Pleiadians interacted, and
Yeah.
very few historians talk about those interactions. What happened with the Syrian, the Arcturian contingencies here on Earth, in Iraq, Iran, in the United States, and then the South American in Peru, which I've been to also. That is the knowledge that's coming through people like us right now to come
Yeah.
up with these
Yeah,
technologies.
that history is very intriguing, and it's a very powerful history, and it does carry a lot of code just by becoming aware of at least the possibilities. But there's
Mhm.
certainly a lot of anthropology, anthropology and archaeology coming forth that has been previously hidden and stuff like that. So this is going to get really interesting. I've got to run. We've got
We're ready.
that was
This
a quick hour. Yeah, I'm like,
that was a
yeah,
beautiful drop, and I love our
I
passion, Todd. I love
yeah, no,
this
this is good. I mean,
energy that's coming through.
it's very thought provoking. Yeah, I definitely would like to revisit with you if you're open to it from time to time. And if we
Of
get that
course.
way, we get that way. We know, of course, Akerta and a few other people in New Mexico. Seems like we're going to be in that
And
area probably in
you and your team has an open invitation to come visit us here in New Mexico.
right on. That sounds great. And do me a favor, and the people on the live and on the replay, please put those comments in the Facebook Live so
I
that
will.
they can find you.
Thank you. And I'm inviting everyone to look at this project, participate, share it, know that this is real. This is the new way of being, to feed and nurture each other and our visions. We
That's
are
right.
all the center of mass creation. That's the name of my laboratory,
What, mass
the center of
creation?
mass creation.
The center of
Yes,
mass creation. CMAC,
exactly.
center of mass creation.
CMC,
CMAC, CMAC. Right
center, right. And what,
on.
what we produce is called engines of mass creation.
There
This
you
is
go.
a move away from weapons of mass destruction. Thank you,
Yeah, I
Todd,
love it,
and
man.
everyone who's participating and all future viewers. We're
Right on, man.
quantum entangled.
You take
I
care,
love you,
man.
brother.
I'll see you later. Love you too, man. You take care. Thank you so much. I'll
Bye
see you
bye.
again.